today's video, I'm just going to be taking you through the steps on creating a carousel for your website. I'm just going to use the navigation that I created in the previous video and add the carousel below that. So we're on the Bootstrap website in the components section under carousel. And if we scroll down, you can see this carousel automatically switches from one slide to the next using a timer. So if we look at the code here, you can see that the first div has a class of carousel and another class of slide. The carousel class creates the actual element itself, and then the slide class creates the functionality which allows the slides to change every 5 or so seconds. Then within that div you have your carousel inner class, and within that the carousel item, just as you would with your nav item and then nav link. The first item has been set to active and you have an image embedded within that. So you have the image with class dblock, which means display block, and a width of 100, which means it's spread across the full width of the page. And this continues for the rest of the carousel items. If you scroll to the right, you can see the alt text, which is good for accessibility for people with visual impairments, which allows the computer or whatever software they're using to read out and describe whatever element they're hovering over. So if they hovered over the carousel on the first slide, then their software would read out the text that is within the alt descriptor here. So if we move down, you can also add controls, which allows you to move between slides if you don't want to wait for the timer to automatically change them. And the code below, this is done by adding link classes at the end of the actual carousel itself. So after the closing div, you have a link class with carousel control previous, so that'll be the arrow on the left hand side, which allows you to go back, and then the control next class, which is the arrow on the right hand side, which takes you forward in the carousel. And within these classes you have your span class with the actual icon itself and the text associated with that icon. So if we continue down, you can have bars at the bottom, which allow you to toggle between the slides as well as the arrows, and it also lets users know how many slides there are in the actual carousel itself. So if there were 5 slides, then there would be 5 bars below the carousel. So if we look at the code here, you can see that the indicators are included at the top before the actual inner carousel, and it's done through an ordered list with a class of carousel indicators. And you have the list tag with the actual number of slides, and you always start with 0 and work your way up. You can also change the active class and place it into, let's say, slide 1, which means that the slide which has the text second slide will appear first, and then the carousel will progress on from that. There's also options to add captions to your slides, just as a brief description of what the image or video is. And this is placed below the image or video itself within that specific carousel item, and it uses the class carousel caption. There's also different types of transitions rather than the sliding from left to right or right to left. You have a fade, which is just done by including the class carousel fade within the first div of the slider. And if you want to change the actual interval time between the slides, you can paste this within your HTML document, and it's measured in milliseconds. So let's get started on a carousel. I am going to stick with the fade because I think it's nice. So I'll just copy and paste it below my nav bar. Save and refresh. So you can see that the actual slides itself are transitioning, but the link for the image is broken. So I'm just going to go on to placeholder.com, which is very handy if you're just wanting to get the general layout of your website without adding any proper content in. So I'm going to take this link here, copy it, and paste it here. And that is 800 by 400. So if I change that, and paste it in the other slides, save and refresh. Yeah, so now you can see that it's spread across the whole page with 100% width. The toggle arrows are working because you can notice the fade transition when you press the arrow. Just to make it more obvious, I'm going to put the bars down at the bottom, the indicators. So we'll go back to the Bootstrap site, and I'll take this, place it before the inner div, and then I also want a caption as well. So under the first slide, I want to place, I'll just leave the 3 dots as the heading and the paragraph text, and I'll just do the same for, actually I'll just write the number of the slide in the heading, just to make it obvious when the slider is changing. 3. So let's save this and test it out. So you can see that you have the indicators at the bottom, which shows that there are 3 slides. There's the H5 heading with the slide number on it, and then you have the paragraph text below that. And you can notice that it's gradually changing depending on what the interval time is, but it's fading from the first active slide, which is slide 1, onto the next 2. And it functions in a continuous loop as well. You can also use the element inspector again, like we did in the previous video, to edit the elements within the slider. So if I click on the H5, you can see that that has the font size as 1.2 rems. I'm going to change the color to red, which is automatically changed within the browser here, but that doesn't affect your actual website. This is just sort of a tester before you make any permanent changes to your website. It's just really handy so that you're not having to go back and forth from your text editor to your browser and refreshing the page, hundreds of times to get the style perfect for you. So that's how you create a working carousel. You can link in your own images. You can also set different widths for the slides. So you can have one slide at 100% width and another slide at 80% width, or you can just keep it consistent throughout the site. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.